This is Derek Hansen, and I'm going to discuss an infographic I created on sprint training, and I want to get into some more detail. I know a picture is worth 1,000 words, but hopefully this video is worth about 10,000. Alright, so I've created this infographic. Now, this is my chalkboard version. Hopefully you have a copy of the computer generated one and you can use it as a reference. But what I wanted to talk about here was I've had a lot of questions about the infographic, which I usually do. A lot of interest. Thank you very much. But what I want to talk about was what I feel are some of the relationships related to some of these training recommendations that I've identified. So if you look at the infographic, you'll have early acceleration, late acceleration, max velocity, and speed endurance over a 100-meter effort. So this could be a 100-meter race competition, and we're trying to improve each of these phases. Now, what I've done here is I've shown some different training elements that I think can help with these phases. But what I don't want you to confuse is that, hey, just by doing some hurdle jumps, I'm going to improve max velocity just like that. It's a process, it takes a lot of time, and I'm going to get into some of the intricacies of how we do that properly. So if we look at sled pulls and hill runs, any type of early acceleration resistance work, then that's going to create strength, power, and sort of your drive angle for your acceleration to improve early acceleration. So I've said here about 0 to 30 meters. So a lot of the time the resisted work that I do isn't longer than 30 meters because that's what it directly applies to. Now, when we get into late acceleration, probably a little more elasticity, ground contact, power, rate of force development. So I have things like hopping and bounding over distance and having some speed behind that too. So speed bounds and speed hops. And I think that correlates a little better to the late acceleration dynamics. And if we get to more of a vertical force production at max velocity, upright sprinting, then I have my hurdle jumps, various sizes. You can see here I have my higher hurdle jumps a little more this way because of the longer ground contact, and short hurdle jumps with more of an extended leg jumping over rather than folding them up. So that is my hurdle jumps that correspond to max velocity. And then when you get to speed endurance, one thing to understand is that we are switching into a different energy system here. We're trying to minimize fatigue. And so what I've done here is I've said specifically we're going to work on runs that target that energy system, and that's going to be the best transfer. Now, what I haven't said here is that everything we do down here and even up here has a cross-pollination effect. So if I do hurdle jumps here and I get more elastic, that's going to feed back to the ground contacts in early acceleration and late acceleration. It'll also help with maintaining velocity over here. Similarly, if I work on strength and power with hill runs, sled pulls, or sandbag drags, those types of things, and there's a lot of devices you can use right now that provide specific resistance, computerized, to tell you exactly how much force you're putting out. Any of that stuff here is going to feed into late acceleration and just strength qualities that transfer to these other areas, right? And you may ask, well, what about slower speed endurance running? I like this and making people do longer runs because it teaches them to relax and be more efficient, which I think transfers to all of these phases. So what we have here is we have these interrelationships of things that can help other qualities. And of course, we have the direct relationships. And so what you have to do is you have to find a way to coordinate all of this within your training program and make sure you get the adequate amounts of all of these things so that, one, they can have those direct connections and transfer to help with your 100-meter race, but also you'll have these cross synergistic patterns and pollination, I call it, that's going to help you generally and make you generally fit. Because the last thing I want you to think is that I'll just work on this one thing and it'll have a direct relationship to this and I only have to do this. You have to do all of these things. And one of the most important things is you have to accumulate these over time. It might be months, years before you see a great transfer in some of these areas. So you have to be patient, both as an athlete, as a coach, to make sure that you are putting in enough work over time to get these transfers, these organic transfers over time. So I think that's the biggest message here, is that yes, do all of these individual exercises to help your specific parts of your race, but put things together in a way that allow you to accumulate volume safely and get these contributions over time, because you're always going to be sprinting and running, hopefully. And then when you start adding these things in, they start to blend together and to create results in performance. So I think that's the biggest thing here in terms of programming, is understanding which exercises to choose, when to do them, how much to do, but also have some patience and longevity to get your results. So I think one of the things I wanted to show you here was this was an infographic that I would discuss a little more. And this is kind of a precursor to my infographic mini course that I'm offering, which is going to have all of my infographics that I've created over the last few years. And it's going to teach you some of the concepts in a little greater depth than just the picture itself. So that's going to be coming out very soon. So keep an eye out for that. And it's going to be reasonably priced, because I know my bigger courses are quite expensive. So I want to make sure this is affordable and coaches, athletes, parents even can benefit from this information. So thank you very much. I'll have more for you soon.